No more Mr. Nice Trump, because he was so nice before to criminals in D.C., right? There's a big press conference we're expecting today about cracking down on crime in D.C. You and I, we talked about this a lot last week. It's coming. We knew it was coming, and I think it starts today. It starts in the nation's capital, but here's how it affects everybody. I think it's coming to every city eventually. They're going to crack down on crime, and they don't care about who opposes it. Now, watch out to see who opposes actually cracking down on crime. He's a dictator. We told you he was going to... Because that's coming too. But we'll try to preview what's in the press conference a little bit later on. Also, we have an absolutely horrific UCLA student in her graduation speech who, and you're going to have to excuse the language on this one. I couldn't edit it out. It was just impossible. And it's part of the story, actually. But if you feel bad and this disturbs you, and I know there's a lot of consternation about this story and this girl's speech, it's okay. Because you shouldn't feel sorry for these colleges when they lose funding in the future. And apparently college admissions are down. They did this to themselves. That's what you have to keep remembering. We have an unbelievable story out of Florida, Flagler County specifically, about a fake nurse who got busted. And I don't have any numbers whatsoever to prove this, but my theory is I would be willing to bet you there are fake nurses and fake medical professionals throughout the entire country. They happen to bust this lady. Where do you hear how many patients she's treated in the past, though? And it's a good reminder, and here's the takeaway for all of us to ask questions. Become good consumers again when you go into a medical facility. And we'll wrap it up with from that loser to an absolute winner and a hero. We lost Jim Lovell. Yeah, of course, from Apollo 13 in the movie. And a lot of us learned about Jim Lovell and that story through that movie. He was 97 years old. What an absolute complete hero that guy was. Anyway, a lot to talk about. Thanks for being here. Appreciate you as always. Thanks for finding the Wicked Radio. I can talk. Wicked Radio live stream, all part of Wicked Wisdom with Bill Adams. Thanks for being here on the audio podcast if you're listening later on, or you're watching the live stream replay later on, and you already know what this press conference is all about. Well, you're ahead of the game, but here we go. This is the announcement that came out over the weekend, and he actually did two posts on Truth Social, Trump did, about what's happening about cracking down on D.C. crime. We're having a news conference tomorrow, meaning today, in the White House. They're calling it for 10 a.m. Now, you know how these things go. That means probably 10:30. They're never on time, but maybe this one will be. It's all about making Washington, D.C. safe. But it's not just about the nation's capital. Symbolically, it has to start there, right? Been a lot of talk about that going to bring the National Guard in. It's already been a lot of news stories about moving the homeless out. That's already started the pushback on that. But I think it's going to be something more. And I would not be surprised if Trump at this press conference also brings out a very close friend of his, another one we talked about on Friday, Jeanine Pirro. You might know Judge Jeanine from her Fox days, as a contributor. I think she was on The Five. She was on Gutfeld a couple of times. But she's also now, more importantly, the U.S. Attorney for the District of Columbia. And she's talked about this multiple times, over and over and over again, about cracking down on crime. Little example, this was just from last month.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jeanine Pirro, the U.S. Attorney in D.C., and we are prioritizing the President's executive order to make D.C. safe and beautiful. And as part of that initiative, what my office has done in recent weeks is we are now trying to identify those illegals who are currently burrowed in our criminal justice system.
So that's all part of it, too, obviously. The immigration issue and ICE is all part of this thing. I wouldn't be surprised, and you'll know this later on because maybe you're watching this or listening to it after the press conference. Maybe Tom Homan, director of ICE, will be there. Maybe Homeland Security people will be there. I don't know, but this whole thing starts. This is why it's so important, these stories that get out there. Big balls. Remember the kid from Doge who got beaten to a pulp trying to save his girlfriend? As they're about to be carjacked, got beaten by 10 to 12 thugs in the street of Washington, D.C. That was disturbing, but it has an effect when leadership is strong. It does. Those stories matter. That's why people like you and me and people in casual conversation were so outraged by it. The Cincinnati couple, they were beaten close to death by a mob of 20 people. These stories matter because we've reached a point, you can feel it, you know it too. You're just talking to your friends and family or people at work, friends. You hear barroom conversations or you overhear people talking about it at restaurants. People have had enough. There is I don't think there's ever been so much temperament for pushback against crime in this country. That's why. Now, maybe you don't even like Trump. I have no idea. You don't like this administration. You don't like what they're doing with deportation. I don't know. But one thing's undeniable. He gets a pretty good sense of the pulse of the nation and what's going on. This is part of the pushback. This is where it starts. Whatever the hell they're going to talk about with this press conference today, it's going to be about cracking down on crime. And I think they're doing it. They're doing it now because they have the support of the country behind them. Because I hear it myself, how many people say, I don't care what you have to do. I don't care what you have to do, make these cities safer. I hear that all the time. It's like people that never would have been in favor of bringing in the National Guard before. Oh, I hear it all the time now. You probably do too. Maybe your mind was changed. I don't care what the hell they have to do. Bring in the National Guard. Crack down. Enough of this. Cities are overrun with crime. So symbolically, like she said, that it starts in Washington, D.C., you know they're big on the symbolism. So you have to. Start there, and then if this program works, you send it to the other cities and we make this country safer. It has to happen. So we'll see. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. All right, this is an unbelievable story that started last week, and then the details started trickling in, and then the police cam video of the arrest came in, and then we found out how many patients she had actually treated as a fake nurse. I'm talking about this lady, Flagler County in Florida. This lady got arrested for treating over, again, remember this, as a fake nurse, over 4,000 patients. Her name is Autumn Bardisa, and she was arrested this past week. I think it happened on Tuesday. She pretended to be a registered nurse. Actually, she treated 4,886 individuals at a local hospital there in Flagler County, Florida. It's the timeline that gets me. July 23 until she was fired on January 22nd, and then they came back and arrested her. Now, the look of you, when you do that, you're fired for that. You have to figure you're going to be arrested, right? Wouldn't you figure that? They'd come after anybody that actually did this to make an example of her. This is how the arrest went down. This is when the news went viral.
Hey there. Are you Autumn?
Yeah,
Can you step out of the car for me, please?
sure.
Just turn around. Put your hands behind your back.
Oh, wait, what's going on?
Put your hands behind your back.
Okay,
Hold tight.
Oh, yeah, I don't understand. What's going on? You're going to arrest me? Oh, as a fake nurse? Oh, okay. The statement from the sheriff in Flagler County, Florida, Rick Staley, is this is one of the most disturbing cases of medical fraud we've ever investigated. This leads us to this. And I don't have any numbers. I can't quantify this. I have no idea. It's just a complete guesswork on my part. But I'd be willing to guess this is happening probably in every metro area in the country. Flagler County isn't really that populated, but still, if it's happening there, you know it's happening everywhere else. Wouldn't you be willing to, would it shock you if all of a sudden they came out with some kind of a news story tomorrow or today saying that they've arrested hundreds or thousands of people pretending to be medical professionals? Nurses, assistants. God, we know we've had stories of fake doctors out there before, but they were few and far between. Would it shock you to find that out? What shocked me about this story was some of the reaction from some people. It was weird to me, just odd, because I immediately went to think about this as a patient. It was weird how many comments I saw online of people saying, well, you know, it's really expensive to become a nurse, and you know, maybe she just couldn't afford that. And there was a lot of sympathy for this lady, like way more than I expected. I'm not going that far. I have sympathy for the patient she treated. One point that was made online was there's not a lot of complaints about this lady, which is fascinating. Maybe she knew her stuff. Maybe she actually was a good fake nurse. I don't know. But she was a fake nurse, and that's the bottom line. Here's my point of bringing it up again. It's a good reminder, and here's the takeaway. Here's what you can do about that, because it is scary, right? When you start to think about not only medical mistakes, right? That's always been a growing and very serious issue in our medical system. And God knows our medical system and insurance system is just a mess. But if it scares the life out of you, don't feel bad about the fact that there may be fake medical professionals out there, and maybe you've been treated by one. I don't know. Who the heck knows? Again, I'm just going on guesswork. My guess is this happens way more than you think. It's okay, because here's what you can do. It's a great reminder. Take a hold of this information, and it's a great reminder to feel good about being a good consumer when it comes to medical advice and medical situations again. I don't know what it is. I've never understood this. I've never gotten it. How all of a sudden we get like complacent and afraid to talk to doctors in medical situations. It's like you walk in those front doors of a medical facility and all of a sudden you're like powerless. You feel like you can't ask questions. You can't advocate for yourself. You can't advocate for another person. I'm telling you, that's a bunch of crap. Throw that out the window. And this is what changed my mindset on this years ago. When you start to think of doctors, God love them. You know, there's a lot of great, I would say a majority of doctors in the country are just fantastic. They are. They do great work. We need them. We love them. Egos, yeah, most of them. But would you want a non-confident doctor? Anyway, look at doctors as mechanics. Really, seriously, I mean that. I know it sounds stupid at first, but think of it from a consumer perspective, right? Don't be intimidated. Any medical professional, nurse, assistant, doctor, surgeon, don't be afraid to ask questions like you would of like a car mechanic. Like if a car mechanic was going to do a procedure on your car, you'd ask all kinds of questions, right? What's necessary? What's not? What are you going to do? What's the timeline? What's it going to cost me? Why in the medical profession are we afraid to ask questions? Not only that, the lead in here with our story of the fake nurse, why can't you ask about the credentials of somebody? Like we all walk in, what's the typical doctor's office, even just a wellness visit? What's the typical scene? You walk in there, it's a cold, generic room. You're talking to the doctor. He doesn't really look at you, and they're just filling out a form. And you look on the wall, just like diplomas on there. Do you ever look at the diploma and like really examine it or to see where they went to school, where the medical license is? No, you just kind of assume it's there. How many of those are fake? Truly. I mean, honestly, why can't you as a consumer ask the questions? You should always have the right to ask right there in his face, the doctor that's going to be treating you, what his credentials are. Well, he might be offended. I don't give a damn. Who the hell cares if he's offended or not? Ask what their credentials are, what they're going to do, and advocate for yourself. And this fake nurse story is a great example of that. Well, she would have just said that she went to nursing school or whatever. Okay, fine. But if enough people ask, she would have been exposed a lot sooner than this. Whole thing is a reminder. You can't be intimidated as a patient. You have to advocate for yourself. And God forbid, if you don't ever go into any kind of a medical procedure or a surgery alone where no one can advocate for you. Find somebody, even if you don't have any family, a neighbor, somebody to advocate for you because you have to with this medical system we have. And God knows the insurance system. So you may be freaked out by the fake nurse story. I certainly was. But it's okay. It's a good reminder that you have to ask questions. Think of the mechanic example. I'm telling you. You think of them as mechanics, highly specialized and trained mechanics, sure, but they're body mechanics. You'll start thinking of this situation a lot smarter and much better as a consumer. All right. We got to go to this story, too. A lot more people than I had expected disturbed by this, and that's okay, too. UCLA, the University of California, Los Angeles. Highly regarded, highly respected school. Speaking of medical schools, UCLA Medical School is apparently amazing. Well now, did you happen to see the story of Jamie Han? A Chinese identifies herself. She has an IMDb because she's an actress. Chinese-American actress who got her degree in communications. She must be top of the class because she was the one that gave a speech, or one of them that gave a speech at UCLA over the weekend as she's graduating. Now, I can't edit out the F-bomb in this. And I don't think I would anyway. I'm not saying it. She is. Because it's actually part of the story. But here's another part of the story. And there's a lot of people outraged by this, and I get it. A lot of consternation. And that's okay. The reason why it's okay to be outraged by this is the next time you feel sorry for colleges that are losing admission numbers. And apparently, this is another big story. Across the country, college admission numbers are down, especially of foreign students, foreign-born students. Funding's going away. They're going to have to fund themselves, less taxpayer dollars, because we know what colleges have become by and far in this country. Just propaganda machines. And they've also done some, especially with the Columbia and Harvard stories, just awful examples of what they've done to some of their Jewish students. We know that much, right? Next time you want to feel sorry for colleges, don't. And here's the example. Now, I'll have some audio here, but you people who are watching this, there is a visual clue on this. Here's Jamie Han in her address, where she's going to drop a couple of F-bombs here. Sorry about that. But if you are watching on this, either on YouTube or on X or on Facebook, you have to look at the faces of the college administrators behind her and the smugness and the nodding of the head. And because this explains exactly where your problem is. Here's what got her all the attention. Remember, she is an actress, so maybe this is all by design. Over the weekend, Jamie Hahn at
Excuse my language, but to that I say fuck ICE and fuck the Trump administration.
Sorry for the F-bomb again. Tried to give you a warning there. Now, you people who saw that, or you've seen the video on your own, did you see the administrator nodding? And the one right behind him, to the right of him, with a smug smile on his face. Yes, so proud of our students, saying F ICE and F the Trump administration and F. There's your problem. Now, I don't care that they took shots at the Trump administration. I don't care that they did this. I don't care what they ever. But can you imagine what else she's saying, what else she's doing? And if you ever want to start to feel sorry for these colleges, losing money, losing admission, losing a lot of their taxpayer funded, don't. Just remember that visual image. Not so much of Jamie Hahn, the girl who said it, but of the administrators behind her, nodding and encouraging and clapping it on. And yes, is that what we become? Really? Would it have gotten as much traction if she had said something on the other side or didn't politicize it? No, absolutely not. And that is something to keep in mind, by the way. She is an actress with an IMDb. So maybe it was all for publicity. What better way to get publicity these days than to say, F ICE, F the Trump administration, F, this. But remember the administrators, because they're the ones that encourage this. Just saying. Don't feel sorry for these colleges, ever, because that's another cleanup that's happening. All right, we go from that zero to an absolute hero. Can you imagine coming within minutes of veering off course and dying a horrible death into the vacuum of cold, empty space? Because that's how close Jim Lovell was to dying, along with Swaggart and Fred Hayes as well. But still, what a hero. He went from that in 1970, where we all know the story of Apollo 13, to surviving that, becoming a hero with the space program and the military, and living to the year 2025 and all the technological advancements. What an amazing life. And we all know, of course, the Apollo 13 movie, which made his legend cemented in stone forever. But here's a little piece of that movie that came out in the late 90s. But we lost Jim Lovell at 97 over the weekend. But really, you look at this and you got to say,
well, between Jack's back taxes and the Fred Hayes show, I'd say that was a pretty successful broadcast.
That's an excellent show, Oscar.
Thank you very much, Houston.
We got a couple of housekeeping procedures for you. We'd like you to roll right to 060 and know your rates.
Roger.
the moments before, as we all know the story now, the disaster happened. There was something key in there, too. And the Apollo 13 movie did such a good job of portraying this. There was such boredom in the press conference from space he was talking about, like nobody saw. Now remember, this was only Apollo 13. Just a couple of missions after Apollo 11 where the whole world was watching the moon landing, right? A couple of years later, a year and a half later, was it? Maybe just a year? Nobody was interested anymore. That's human nature. And that was like in 1970. Like, we're the same now. If you think attention spans, are so bad now, it's always been that way. Nobody had any interest in Apollo 13 at the time until the accident happened, and that was a worldwide story. But we all know what happened as they, Jim Lovell, being the commander of that vessel, figured it out, got him fixed up, got him home. A successful failure, they called it, and he was the guy that actually got it done. And lived to 97 years old. We lost that hero. But man, I tell you, what an amazing accomplishment and what an amazing life. But there's this too. It's like sometimes this is why we need Hollywood movies portraying this kind of stuff. Would most of us know the story of Apollo 13 if that movie hadn't come out? Probably not. Space nuts, historians, people who are interested in this stuff would have known, would have read about, would have seen something on the History Channel about Apollo 13, every once in a while. But the movie popularized it and brought it to American culture. That's why even though we go all upset, and I love you, as you know, making fun of Hollywood, even though they're annoying sometimes, and Tom Hanks can be an absolute goofball, they brought that story to life. That's why that stuff is so important to culture, introducing more and more people to exactly what happened and who the heroes are. Because Jim Lovell was always recognized as a hero, especially so after Apollo 13 came out. So that's why movies and culture actually are important. That's why we talk about them so much. One factoid, though, I just happened to see about this that I didn't catch till over the weekend. Tom Hanks had admitted, we all know the line, right? Something goes wrong and we all joke about it. Houston, we have a problem. I guess that wasn't the correct line. So says Tom Hanks. He admitted later, he says, it's a minute detail, but a detail. Houston, we've had a problem, was actually the actual line in the broadcast. Misquote? It's all right. Wouldn't be the first time. R.I.P. Jim Lovell. Thanks for being a hero. And thanks for finding me. I appreciate you so much. Remember, what's the biggest takeaway? That whole medical nurse story, that fake nurse story, use that as a reminder to be a consumer when it comes to your medical affairs. It's really important. It really is. Again, I can't back it up, but I would be willing to guess there's a lot of fake nurses out there, but a lot of great ones too, so honor them as well. Thanks for finding the live stream. Appreciate you. As always, if you're watching or listening later on the replay, press follow. Always appreciate you. Audio listeners right now, press download, so you know when new episodes are coming out as well. It's only Monday. We'll see what that press conference is about too. Tomorrow we'll have all kinds of things to talk about. A lot of it, I already know, is going to be about cleaning up crime. Now, that's going to be a good thing, I think. We'll see. We'll find out together. Make it a wicked awesome Monday. We'll talk to you later.